Nothing new from Faker today. I wouldn't advise it going into playoffs if he has something sneaky, but Smolder's kind of out there. At least everybody knows about the pick at the moment.
Okay, first ban on blue, pretty interesting. Also the Yone, going to take that away from closer, so Faker not playing that here.
Kalista taken away from Gumakeria to weaken some of the flexibility in that lane that we've seen from this team basically since this roster was formed. Vi is kind of a must ban against BNK, so taking away two strong jungle picks, a pick you don't plan on playing, but is one of Closer's best, strong on this patch. Final ban would probably be Aurora in this case, but since it is globally banned, it will be the Nidalee to come through instead, and that's just going to leave Ashe. Definitely one of the strongest bottom lanes to get an Ashe first pick, I would say, in the LCK.
Yeah. Renekton immediately the follow-up here for clear, as well as Zyra. So you already have really strong top lane and an extremely fast clearing jungle with this duo.
And the Nidalee's taken away. Sejuani does feel like pretty viable in this situation just because it pairs well with the Ashe, but isn't going to be as strong into the Zyra. Will not be able to match the clear, will not be able to make the same impact in the early game. Instead, it will be Viego to come through here. It does make you wonder if Faker just locks up the Azir, and well, never really any doubt.
True.
As I think some people might be critical of, again, the reliance on the Azir, but if you want to show as little as possible before playoffs, this is just a strong set of champions. No secrets here.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Viego into Zyra personally. I feel like if you fall behind it, you get behind so far in tempo. But it is owner on the Viego, so perhaps he can get a bit more work done than some of the other junglers have been doing into the Zyra. But looking for Raptor to have a lot of presence in this early game.
That is definitely going to be the key. As we take a look at some of the picks here, I think support is where you're probably focused, as BNK taking away the Braum. Ashe lane is quite strong. Renekton doesn't have too many big matchups that he's worried about. Like Gnar could be one that Zayas picks up here. The Kennen is viable. GP is one that we see into Renekton sometimes. It's much easier to just target support here as BNK because you haven't shown any part of your bottom lane just yet. We'll see if it's just going to be like a Leona ban here if they want to play MF. I mean, Leona's are taken away by T1, so I guess it will be the Gnar.
Yeah, I think that's a good shot. If you're going to ban one thing into this Renekton for Zeus, just take the Gnar away. It could have tried to target a little bit more towards the bottom lane, but also it is T1's bottom lane. They always play all sorts of weird stuff, so you don't even know if it's, you know, Guma playing this, Keria playing this. It's like 99% it is Guma that is going to play it in this current meta, but it's actually Alistar to be taken down. So Rel stocks immediately spike up.
Yeah, with Leona gone too, I feel like this might be an error. They could just go Rel here first and then grab Misfortune, it feels like. Unless there's a trap pick they're worried about. That seems like a pretty easy rotation for this draft for BNK.
There's also Rakan to consider. Duro, a very big Rakan player, and it has not been denied from him. So I'm just going to lock in the Misfortune and just wait.
Yeah. Just want to have the support counter pick. This means that Keria should block the Rel, unless... Yeah. No, it's the Ornn pick is a consideration for top lane in this.
It's Senna Ornn bot, Ashe mid, Azir top.
What about Ashe top into Renekton?
No.
Slow him down.
Ashe
Keep that croc
jungle,
away.
Viego top, Azir 80k. Wait.
Yeah, it's GP, I think, is probably a better option here. This comp has insane scaling. It feels like we've gone back to the Genji days. If you're okay, gonna be the Kennen instead. But if you go back to the GP Azir drafting, old school Genji drafts, we used to see a lot of that back in 2021, 2022. Duro looking for the Nautilus response here since the Rel was taken away. I feel like the better way to have played this one out for BNK's bottom lane would have just been to grab the Rel because they can't take the Misfortune away from you and then have that really strong synergy there that already works well with the Zyra. Instead, they ended up with Nautilus and Darrell, which is a little bit, I mean, it's okay, but it's a little bit weak, I feel. Pretty strong into dive if the Viego does have that opportunity down there on the bottom side. You have a lot of sticking power in the roots, etc. Very difficult to kill under turret when there's a Nautilus there. Otherwise, the draft here for BNK feels pretty good. You have really nice setup, single target CC. You have some combo setup with the Zyra for the bullet time. It's not as strong as the Rel engaged, but it can be quite nice. On the side of T1, you've got insane team fighting power. You have both of your solo laners can set up team fights and engages. You have the Rel to set it up, and you have Ashe arrows to get single target picks, and then you have the follow-up CC. I have to lean pretty heavily towards T1's draft here, but it is going to, again, be about that execution, because this is a draft that needs to work well together. If people are getting isolated, people are getting caught, Viego's falling behind the Zyra, it can fall apart relatively easily.
Yeah, we see a lot of this recently with, you know, Rel, Kennen, Ashe, Viego, just a big pick comp, resets. This isn't anything really new on the side of T1, but it is very comprehensive. The Azir kind of filling in the gaps, add some nice scaling as well. Whereas on the side of BNK, just everybody picked their own champ as well. No swaps needed in this draft for them. But certainly a whole boatload of damage. We'll see how it goes as we hop into the Rift for game number 1.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Here we go, game 1 as T1 have grouped in the top lane. All 5 members here to come. And Closer's like, well, I'm gonna have to take Valkyrie first. And that he will. Duro able to proc his Aftershock, I believe, so he gets away.
He's fine. Very nice to get the Valkyrie out of Closer early. Ashe level 1, incredibly strong. Ashe and Braum, even stronger. Why that was banned away. Clear will avoid the slow, and also slice and dice at level 1. So 2 awkward ability takes here for BNK as a result of that level 1 play. Pretty successful here for T1. Clear is not going to be, it's not going to be the end of the world for either of these solo laners to have their mobility options at level 1, but it does hurt their lane pressure.
Closer says, no, I'm just going to use it to harass. Valkyrie into range. Get a couple of autos off, but yeah, he would like to have Gatling gun. Instead, he will not. Also -1. Unlucky. We do see
PTA Kennen.
Yeah.
When it's a low-stakes game and Zeus is on Kennen, sometimes he does not do the ability power items.
I mean, especially into the Renekton. Renekton, very difficult to push out a lane, but if you want to try your hardest, that is one way to try to do so. Nice buffer from Duro just to say, I do not want to fight you early on. And just get away from that one. I mentioned it in the draft. I want to see high tempo from Raptor on his clear, and I want to see him get active in the side lanes early.
Yep, looks like that's what he's planning on doing. We'll be spotted by this hawk shot from Guma. And Zeus knows that Owner needs to come over here and cross and make sure that Kennen can continue to use the range advantage he has with that PTA as well. Raptor's pushed away from his jungle. And Clear doesn't have level 2, but not really able to come over here and assist, so looks like it is going to just be a red buff stolen away. As Raptor will at least get his Krugs. Zeus really putting the pressure on with that PTA and the range advantage. And that means Owner will get that extra buff and then be able to go down and take his own red.
And now Owner even going to show up in mid, but Faker taking it out on his old understudy. Remember, Closer used to be on T1 behind Faker. But yeah, I think especially that Valkyrie kind of hurting Closer, not really able to chip away at Faker's health bar here, and Faker taking every opportunity to try to trade as much as possible.
He's got cookies too, so it's not like he's going to be mana starved or anything like that. Closer, on the other hand, was relatively low. Decides not to complete the back. And we do see Owner heading bottom here. Does not take his red buff just yet, since he already has double buff from taking that away from Raptor. And you mentioned you wanted to see Raptor get aggressive early, but with both of those mobility options taken for clear and closer, they couldn't control their lanes at all. It gave Owner so much power to steal that buff away. 3-buff Raptor here. Can get the scuttle bottom side. And he just has so much control off of the level 1 play. You know, these are the dominoes kind of falling over, the butterfly effect of what can be such a strong start. I mean, the Corki can normally fight back against the Azir. The Renekton is a little bit tougher, but having to take slice and dice really hurts his ability to clear those first few waves before he gets level 2. Then he, you know, finds himself 12 CS down, and his ally's buff is gone.
Yeah, it can be rough to play any jungler when it feels like you don't really have any prio in any of the lanes. The top lane, as you mentioned, not great. Mid, it's Azir versus Corki, so that is very notoriously anti-fun, not just because the two of them can't be pushed out of lane by one another, but also because there's not a lot of gank assist until Azir hits level 6. And before that, you're kind of just hanging out. Even when Azir does get it, Corki has ways to get out of it as well. So don't see a lot of action here, which means that Raptor's just kind of farming. And that is mostly what we're seeing here in this early game.
Yep. Standard stuff.
Supports have decided they have had enough, and they will leave.
Yeah.
They do not want to be part of the bottom lane farm.
Really important for Duro to come over here and try to put the pressure on the Faker. Keria is matching, so just kind of ends up being a 2v2 lane here. Nothing should come of this. Faker teleports first, so any damage that Closer does to him would be significant, but it looks like that's just going to be the end of that. Kennen has been struggling, by the way, 3 and 12.
20%.
Yeah, I feel like we've seen a lot of blind Kennen, a lot of weird draft spots for Kennen. And it has not really been working out for a lot of teams who are like, oh, I have the answer to X range matchup. It's Kennen, but it doesn't work for the draft. She's a poor performance of it all overall as Keria's going in.
Going in, and Hannah is, well, actually it was Raptor. He is going to be 100-0. First blood does go over to T1 just like that, but BNK are fighting back. Owner going to be taken out himself, and that is a trade of junglers as the collapse stick come in afterwards. Meanwhile, Henna is winning this bottom lane at the moment.
Yeah, Guma hit 6, so wants to get away from that turret. Now can continue to put the pressure on. So very close fight there on the Grubs, as Kennen is extremely strong in these early Grub fights because of the ultimate impact he can make. Also with Keria's engaged there, looked really good. But Renekton is also quite difficult to deal with at level 6 on those first fights. So
yeah,
it's up being a trade of kills. Both top laners are actually the ones who get the majority of that gold, so they pick up the kills themselves. But a very decisive call there from T1.
Yeah, I like it. You know, you see the Zyra kind of all alone, no level 6 either, so you know there's not a lot of trade back potential. You just go in, you're Rel, Keria makes the call, goes in, and gets a nice play. But you talked about the Renekton. We saw it yesterday as well with Gen.G. With the Renekton Nidalee, even more oppressive in what that can do in the early Grub fights.
Yeah, I mean, just look at this. Duro is not fast enough to react to deny Keria's engage. Zeus commits the Maelstrom, but it only hits really the target they collapse on, Raptor. And then Clear just slides in here with his ultimate, does so much damage. There's not enough time for Faker to get over here and try to isolate him. Owner will ultimately come up here and start these Grubs off. Looks like he's just going to get the key one that you want to get. And then Raptor will come over here and try to grab the second 2. That was a nice little timing that Owner found to get in there and get that one away. Faker did get pushed out of lane. Closer actually has a pretty big advantage now and will crash this wave in. So lost farm for Faker in the mid lane. And also that guarantees the second and third Grub go to Raptor. They're not Raptors, but...
Yeah, we have Raptors now. They used to be Wraiths. Times change.
The white.
The what?
The white buff. W-I-G-H-T, white. It was white, or the Gromp it is now. Remember that?
Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Wow. Guma's just going to be ulted, and He is going to throw an arrow in as well. Duro's going to get pretty low. Henna just has to walk away.
Well, ends up being a big exchange there. Henna's ultimate super useful defensively there, has the cleanse. But T1 will get the dragon as a result of this. So we've got part of the top side objective. We'll get the full bottom here on that dragon. We'll see what comes with the second Drake here. Get a bigger clue on how much this really means. The individual stats of this will be relatively useful. It's not Grasp Azir or anything like that. It's not going to be super tanky. It'll be straight to Hextech. So I feel like we're headed to a Chemtech Soul just with how the LCK works.
Yeah, especially in games like these where you don't get too much action outside of the one skirmish. It's like, well, we're just destined for it. Ox, you know, he just had his, wow, okay, Guma's just going to flash that. A lot of respect shown. Ox had his dinner. He was feeling a little sleepy, you know, just kind of leaning back in the chair a little bit too much. Doesn't realize that the second Drake is about to be killed in the future here. We'll see how it goes. Could get another Infernal. We had Infernal Soul.
Yeah.
And Mountain Soul so far.
Will be not Mountain for this one, at least, as you kind of alluding to. Faker has been able to maintain CS parity here, despite having to take that additional back after his teleport. Poser will take a small lead here. So Raptor's kind of lurking around, constantly threatening, as Duro's like, oh yeah, maybe you guys could catch me with an Emperor's Divide. Then they look for a turn, using vision very well, but T1 are just not going to fall for it. Guma being flashless can be really important for, you know, potentially that second grub fight if he does end up showing up there, because he's very vulnerable to that Renekton engage, to potentially even getting caught by Raptor. And he looks for the root, so that was actually a pretty huge win in the bottom lane while Keria was roaming for Duro to just grab a potential hook, take his flash away. Going for the barrier instead of the cleanse feels pretty good when you consider some of the aspects of this B&K draft, but see if he does end up getting punished for that if he gets rooted.
Yeah.
It's tough to go for cleanse into Nautilus. Doesn't feel too high value.
For sure, for the lane. I mean, it's just kind of the way this game played out. You know, we didn't really see a lot of action down on the bottom side, so it feels like the barrier doesn't mean too much, but it could have in a different game state. Whereas the cleanse, I know a lot of AD carries that would just take cleanse because, well, there's Renekton and Zyra, and you never know. You get hit by a root. It's like, well, need to get out of that.
Yeah, might have been like heal could have maybe helped him avoid that, but you know, it's tricky to say if you're going to get that one to actually go off, because it's a little bit of movement speed, but that's a big hitbox on the dredge line, so
Yeah.
you heal and still get caught, and you're like, oh boy.
I remember heal.
Look.
Back in the day.
Yeah, I mean.
Before barrier got buffed. It's like, yeah, that was the way.
Well, look, barrier is way better than when it was ghost for both AD carries on the bottom lane for a while there.
That's true. I mean, the ghost was good, actually. I feel like it, you know me, more action, more kills, the better. It kind of like opened up more action.
Yeah,
whereas
like,
barrier can kind of like deny it sometimes.
Because Zeri wasn't oppressive enough when she was cleaning up kills and
yeah.
We needed to make sure they had that long ghost.
More movement speed.
Yeah.
More mobility. Yeah. Some teams, I mean, T1's bottom lane has used barrier aggressively to trade at level 1. So it can sometimes be like a proactive spell. But generally, yeah, you're just kind of taking it for safety. As we've really slowed down. Feeling the deep lull state coming on. As I say that, though, Closer is in the bot lane getting some plates, and T1 do want to respond to this. Keria, he is going to go in with the Magnustorm and flash away. Here comes an arrow. That's also flashed from. So both supports very careful about how far they go.
Very aggressive plate gank from B&K. We'll pick up a plate. That's as much action as they'll allow. As Clear.
It might be in a little bit of trouble. That one auto into the stun. Very good from Owner. Clear extremely low. Has to flash the Heartbreaker. And now you've got this Kennen who's going AD and is attacking this turret. A mile a minute. Going to take down 2 plates already.
Yep. I did kind of allude to, it felt like it was going to go AD in this game. They had the Azir, so for damage profile, it's pretty good. And has the Blade of the Ruin King actually online now with that extra plate going over, so that's a pretty quick buy here, around 1330. Does end up picking that up. Closer got a plate bottom side and some additional time to farm, but not anything comparable to what the Cannon ended up getting here top side. And if this Renekton stops being relevant early on because he's shut down by just good zoning, by Ash Arrows, by Rel engages, then that could be a big problem here for the side of B&K. As this Kennen is getting very relevant very quickly. It's not the, rush to Leandries. It's not a AP build here where you're like, oh, the Kennen's going to be doing a lot of damage, but he's going to be doing a lot of poking in these fights. Sturo is really kind of on the money with his hook aim today.
Yeah. He just needs a extension buff. He needs to go into the talent tree and just hit the button that says extend hook range by 25%. And if he gets that, I mean, he's set.
True.
Just has to do that.
Yeah.
Has to find a way to break the game, and you're all going to be fine. We do have this Hextech Drake up, but it doesn't really seem like B&K want to go for that. They want to go for the Heralds.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't really have any control bottom side, so hard to blame them. But the thing is, because they don't have control, T1 can contest this Herald as well as then afterwards, if they win the fight, take the Dragon. So B&K not able to set up a fight because Faker is actually playing Azir. But I think a lot of the time you forget in this meta that if there is an Azir in the game, he could just shut down entire rotations with his ultimate. It's been double AD for so long with not a whole lot of engage, not a lot of utility. Feels like you can kind of just go, well, we'll just walk over to Herald. No one can stop us. Faker actually just being nearby means you can't get in there careful or safely. And actually, it's going to be B&K resetting, and T1 will match.
Yeah.
And Zeus is just pushing and pushing.
Yeah, I feel like AD Kennen is definitely one of the most difficult champs that's quote-unquote in the meta. It's not really in the meta. We see a lot of Kennen, but it's almost always AP because your spacing basically has to be perfect. Your range isn't that long on the auto attacks, but obviously it's longer than the Renekton. Especially this matchup can be very difficult. By the way, it is Infernal Soul.
All right.
In this game.
Feeling great for T1 with a 2-Drake lead. And yeah, it's in Zeus' meta.
Yeah, I feel like Zeus in his prime, this is like a perfect champion for him. Because spacing was always one of the things that we always really talked about, that he was so good on Gnar.
Yeah.
What made him so strong as a Gnar player. Like, this is what you need best as AD Kennen.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think, okay, that's your range extender.
He needs the 25%.
Yeah. Guma executing on the walk away from said range strategy very well there.
Yeah.
Didn't flash this time. But I mean, the Kennen is going to get the whole turret. And when you have a farming Kennen that's actually building AD, it's kind of a problem that he's getting all of this money, and there's just been no answer whatsoever. They gave the Dragon, but also failed to get the Herald. So turret for Flash Mist Hook. That's the cross map.
Yeah. If you remember B&K when they got behind against Hummel Esports, it was a lot of, okay, Raptors just going to farm the whole game, and we're just going to kind of sit back and do not much, which is not B&K's plan generally.
Now the punish may come through.
It's a turret here, though, and Zeus is going to read their minds and just read the game state and say, well, I'm just not going to overstay.
Well, that's really important because they push him back so he can't get the oh, he got that earlier, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe the tier 2 is what he's looking for. He's going to back. He picks up a couple of components.
Like, literally, T1 are playing tennis with B&K. Like, oh, you guys went for the Kennen? He has TP, by the way, and now we're doing the Herald that you guys didn't start earlier. And we have full control over the map. They have a teleport ward for this Kennen as well, so Zeus can just come in. We'll clear the said ward at least.
Yeah, the issue with AD Kennen is that those teleport flanks, kind of whatever. It's like, oh, well, we got our very fed Kennen there, that's good, but the flank itself is like, well, they ulted us, and he doesn't have any AP.
Closer TPs, and T1 is going to give this up, it looks like.
Yeah, I feel like this is actually good. Like, I feel like Zeus should just stay bot and try to get tier 2.
No, exactly, and that's what he's going to do. You know, even if you TP in with AD Kennen, obviously your ult's not going to do a lot of damage. There still is the utility of it there, but he could have just TP'd in, not as a flank, but just to help fight with his team. But he's not quite a big threat just yet. But he is a big threat to turrets, and T1 kind of cautiously give this one up, get a TP out of closer, and none of these turrets are really killable here right now with this Herald. Unless they get a kill here and clean this one up, they are going to commit to this even though it's at 90% health.
Yeah.
And
so
they just walk away.
Hey, they got it to half health. And this is good too. I think Owner, you know, there's not much happening. He's able to join on bot, and there's nothing that Clear can do.
There's
Turret's
out
just
macro.
on. Yeah.
Just getting out macroed super hard. It's a 2-kill game, but it's a 3,000 gold lead for T1. A lot of that's on this cannon. And you put everything in, you TP to the Herald, but you didn't get the fight. You got the Herald, but then you got half of a turret's HP bar, but lost an inner in return.
Yeah.
Look at the gold graph.
I feel like as B&K, they've been very well known for going into action, even in times where they shouldn't, right? Even from behind, they're like, okay, we're just gonna fight, fight, fight. That's our game plan. That's our unique personality. We're just gonna do this all the time in League of Legends. And they do it from ahead as well, and they create a lot of action. It's very fun generally to cast B&K games. But for some reason, this week, up against Humble Life Esports, they just kind of sat back and died. And here against T1 in Game 1, they're just kind of, outside of Duro looking for hooks, it's just kind of been, well, we don't have any other good way to engage, so we're just going to kind of just farm.
Yeah. Imagine if they had picked Rel first instead of MF. I feel like this game could look very different. And I mean, Duro's hooks were pretty high value early, but now that they've lost a lot of map control and T1 are just running circles around them, it doesn't feel the same way. And you can see this Dragon spawning in 30 seconds. B&K are faster grouped for this. See Closer heading down, doesn't have teleports, so needs to be in the bottom lane. They put Clear in the top lane since he can TP down, assuming, of course, Clear, or rather, Zeus doesn't interrupt him. But Dragon's up in 15. Zeus is getting half of this turret. Can still just go bottom.
Okay, well, Clear is just going to try to get in onto Zeus. There's the Slicing Maelstrom for the stun, and it's enough autos to get the kill. Zeus wins the 1v1. Clear had it. He'd had enough. And he said, I need to pull the trigger. I need to do something. But instead, he'll just go down.
And they don't start the Dragon. They give it up. And Clear all-ins to die. And now T1 gets Soul Point. And Duro is hoping that maybe he could catch this cannon in the top lane. Maybe put some deep vision up. But Zeus is long gone, miles away.
Yeah. It's really a thinking man's game, this one. 3 kills, 21 minutes, but a very large lead.
And definitely a thinking emoji moment. As Clear, like, you clear the wave here, you keep the turtle alive for a little bit longer, but Zeus is AD Cannon, and the CC that he has is just going to allow him to AD you more. Like, his ult doesn't do that much damage, but it does stun you. I thought it was a pretty bizarre decision to go in on that as Clear at this game state. Yeah, we have Terminus completed now for Zeus as well.
Yeah, he had it in the fight, and now he's got the Giant's Belt, which, very interesting. I mean, what is he going, like, Dead Man's?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
here.
maybe.
Like, and that's just going to be even more oppressive. He's going to have a ton of tanky stats as well.
Yeah, because then he just, I mean, he does a decent amount of damage, but he just becomes this utility engage DPS, like, kind of like Gnar, weirdly enough, where you do a lot of damage, but you actually have the CC to set up team fights. And great in the split push scenario as well. Plus Deadman's just gives you some additional stats for kind of being a brawler. It's weird to describe Kennen like that, but we'll see what he builds, but that's what the assumption is at this point.
I feel like T1 could have gotten even more value out of this comp by picking something that's not Azir and pick like a side lane champ like a LeBlanc or like a TF in a different meta. Just to, you know, we always used to have that where like 2 guys would group up in the one lane and just push them out and just really make the Renekton totally useless. But turns out Zeus is kind of able to do it by himself. Take a look at that giant stripe in the gold lead. And Duro, he's also had enough. He's like, I got a flash. I have to make action happen. But he just gets flashed away from.
Yeah, well, he did get Guma's flash. So maybe the next time Guma's in hook range, he'll get him. game has been, that's kind of been the game.
Yes.
That's kind of been the game, Valdez, is like,
True.
T1 are pulling B&K around the map and getting bigger cross maps, and then Duro is almost getting people. And that's it. That's been the game. There was the one kill on the initial grub fight that Clear picks up in return after the engage on the Raptor. As all they've been able to secure, that's the one piece of anything that they've had this game, besides the 2 grubs they got in consolation, as all dragons have been T1s. Herald was low value as T1 got an inner, right? I mean, this weirdly enough feels like B&K going back to the round 1 roots, where we were like, oh, this team is looking like they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And right before playoffs, you feel great. Again, a low-stakes match. But T1, on the other hand, bouncing back in terms of their macro plays here, playing their style. AD cannon for Zeus. I mean, how much more Zeus could you get? Faker on the Azir. We're not a huge fan of the Viego in this draft into the Zyra, but you know what? If you could just out-macro the enemy team completely and 3-buff them with the Prio after a level 1, like we saw from T1.
Randoms, okay.
Another tanky item that has utility.
Yeah. I mean, there is still 280 carries on the enemy side, so if eventually, you know, you want to deal with the crit from those 2, you've got an item to do so.
Yeah.
I guess he just wanted something like some tank item. And, it also provides the slow. It keeps the Renekton off your back, so there's that. This isn't, a matchup we see all too often. Yeah, I've seen it from time to time, but it's kind of cool to see Zeus in the moment thinking about what items he's going to go for.
Some intelligent itemization. B&K can't give this up. I mean, it's... The Azir and the Ashe haven't been in teamfights because teamfights don't exist when B&K are just chasing the shadow of T1 around the map, but eventually we will have a teamfight that's probably going to be right here on this dragon. But if this Infernal Soul goes over and this AD cannon, the Azir with Nashers, the Ashe, 2, maybe 3 items after this fight, has Infernal Soul, and kiss this game goodbye.
I like the way that Zeus plays it as well. You talked about the shadow of T1. This is kind of the way he's playing his side lane as well. Like, he pretends he left, but actually he just, like, zooms in right when they approach the wave, so just even more oppressive. They want to take down this mid-tier 1. Looks like Faker just going to tap that once. Big flank right now from Clear, who is still looking to try to find some kind of usefulness in this game, and he's going to be spotted, so there's no more flank.
Zeus has TP, and Closer cannot stop him. So, looks like maybe they were going to try to look for the flank to come back, or rather just the engage here on the Baron. They're just going to start Baron instead and say, look, 1 dragon versus 1 Baron. We already have 3 dragons. That's going to be what they grab. Nice fadeaway here from Raptor. They're going to TP for this.
I mean, they might be able to get in. The damage, though, is so fast on this one that it's definitely going the way of T1. Let's see what this fight looks like, as a lot of damage goes into Duro, but that's the first reset for the Viego. And look at Clear, he's so far ahead of the team. Down he will go. Keria might pay the price, but it's still the fight for T1, as now you got the TP coming in from the blue team. Faker looking for a bit more, looking for Closer, who does have to flash the sweep, and is even kind of losing the trade, but the big one does get stasis by Faker. Nicely done. Flash comes in as Red wins as well, and he's going to get that kill. T1 finally finding a big fight, and now Henna kind of alone against the Viego, who is quite fed, and he will not win that fight in any universe. Is that just the game, Wolf?
I think that's just the game. I mean, 40 seconds on both 80 carries here for B&K. They have Baron, they have a cannon wave. Instead, it looks like they're just going to dot the rise and cross their T's here a little bit. But that was a pretty disastrous, fight on the Baron for B&K, but they were so behind the 8-ball because T1 made it look like they were going for the Dragon and then rushed over very quickly to the Baron with the top prio that they had. I mean, Zeus was starting to put some pressure, it felt like, even on the inhibitor turret. Like, that's where we were at. I mean, it didn't quite get the enter. But look at this engage. Like you said, super split. Like, Duro goes in alone first and just instantly dies. Look at the bullet time, completely absorbed by Owner's transformation. So basically, you have a bullet time doing nothing. You have a Nautilus going in split because the team is so desperate to stop. And then you have a Renekton who's just out of his depth, trying to do anything, something. This ends up being a really nicely timed stasis from Faker. Then Zeus goes in, Randuin, autos, Q coming across. And they end up just settling for the inhibitor for now.
And now he's got Wit's End. This cannon is just off the wall with how insanely fed he is. Even Faker's got a death cap. I mean, nothing has happened in this game, but it's still a 9,000 gold lead.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of macro happened.
Yeah.
Not a lot of killing until that last Baron fight. Now they have the macro and the killing. And that means big items.
It's a good combo. And, well, they're going to be looking for bot turret and inhibitor, but 5 members, 4 members and a half. You know, Claire's kind of in mid. He's like, oh God, I gotta go top, but I can't deal with the cannon. I can't deal with this guy alone. Claire already learned that, and that was before the cannon had 4 items.
Yeah, I feel like Zeus just right-clicked on the turret and then like stretched his hands.
Yeah, and now once again, look at Duro. He's just like, I gotta hook something. I'm gonna hook a minion. Obviously not on purpose, but just desperation on the side of BNK. Down will go Keria, but the carries here on the side of T1 are now very fed. Zeus getting 1v2'd. He will trade 1 for 1. And Guma is still alive, as well as Owner getting resets in the back line. Faker gonna go in, get stunned. Does go into the stasis, but I'm not sure that he gets out. Oh, he does the sweep into the flash. And that is a beautiful way to end the game. T1 clean. Super clean here in this first one, and will take it down up against BNK to take the lead in the series.
Say what you will about Faker's mechanics here in round 2 on a lot of other champions, but you put the man on the Azir, and he's still got the hands for that one. As Zeus also with a very big statement game on the cannon to come back through, press the attack. 12 out of 12.
12 out of 12.
A 12er, as we often call it. And pretty much, you know, this is the type of game where T1 look on form, no major mistakes, not afraid to flash some of those Duro hooks. The level 1 really gave them such a fantastic edge, allowed Owner so much extra agency in the early game. And the game wasn't about Faker. It wasn't about the Ashe who had to flash Duro's hooks twice. It was about the cannon in the side lane, and then the enemy team being late to respond to said cannon, but then T1 got something on the other map, but then they went on this side of the map, then they went to try to punish T1 there, but then the cannon was pushing another turret.
Yeah.
This is not BNK's playstyle. You look at this draft and you go, well, they have an MF, but they don't have any setup for it. Not a big AoE setup like a Rel. And then you go, what other parts of this draft say BNK to me? Clear on Renekton, but he lost the lane to Cannon very early on.
And they didn't ban it. They didn't, maybe they expected it, but they thought maybe it would be AP. They would be able to deal with it. That was not the case, as Guma's going to stay over and watch the game again. We are done here for game number 1. We will be back after the break. You'll have the space to break it down as well, and we'll see you then.
밀렸어 얘네 쇼 싸우자 이거 싸우자 프로킬 밝힐 거야 자이라 프로킬 밝혀졌어 자이라 노플 앞래 잡아줘 나 노틸이거든 와볼래? 잡아줘 자 미포 노플 자이라 노플 미포 자이라 노플 뭐냐? 이거 레넥 레넥 프리 쓸 거야? 야 잘못했다 조준해서 살려줘야지 조금만 맞아 나 쓰긴 해 프리 쓸 거야 없다는데? 그렇지 나이스 아이고
play their style, and this is one of the big concerns we had for BNK going to playoffs is what if the enemy teams just outdraft you, don't allow you to play your trademark style? Take away the Maokai, take away the Vi. This Azir ban, I feel like is a must ban against T1. Like, people are banning Vi against Raptor every game. Why can't they just ban Azir against Faker every game? They will do it this time. Was Faker the main character? No. But maybe if you have a better lane matchup, you could actually punish him and get Closer online.
Yeah, I think absolutely. There's that LeBlanc. Just popping up here and there, mostly against C plus Kia, against Showmaker. But I said it before, you know, Faker can definitely play LeBlanc, and would have felt pretty nice in that game as well if you had even more side lane threat, just with the way that they were playing. Didn't end up needing it, but it does show that BNK were thinking about it. They will ban it away. The Zyra also taken off the board, even though it felt like the Zyra didn't do all too much, which leaves Rumble for free.
Yeah. Do not blind Renekton when Rumble is up. Do not blind Cassante when Rumble is up. Sorry, he was like, oh, my bad, I misclicked. I pressed the top icon, sorted by top champions, and then just a few, squares off there. This does leave Ashe Sejuani, which feels pretty good.
Also, if Zeus is in form and he's playing like that and he's taking advantage of our Renekton, we've seen players do it with Kennen into Rumble as well. I mean, maybe they just say, we're not too scared about Rumble, we'll just take care of him in the side lane and just not really try to team fight, but they do have Ashe and Lilia now.
I think that if Closer shows a mid pick here, then it's hard for Faker to actually not try to opt for a counter pick. If they end up going for Zeus, just counter pick into the Rumble, then Faker can get choked out really hard. And it's weird to say like Faker's champion pool is small, considering the amount of champions he's played over his career, but right now it feels quite small. So, especially with the Lilia lock in here, I do feel like you can protect this Rumble now that the Ashe was locked in, that they went for the Lilia. Question is, what is Closer going to play? Is it just going to be Corki? Not going to be a Closer pick at all, doesn't look like here, with the Jhin to be locked.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, Yone's available, Corki's available. Maybe he didn't want to blind Yone, even though it feels very good in that comp, because then Faker just plays Corki. But yeah, it's just Jhin.
So now they could just lock Kennen if they feel like Zeus can play Kennen into Rumble. Feels like one of the best options. Camille will be the opt-in instead. Can be quite punishing into this pick, but doesn't have the best jungle setup for it. And we have seen like support Camille, don't like to talk about it. I think this is definitely going to be Zeus's pick, but let's see what else they want to draft around it. Leona taken away. Pretty self-explanatory there. Banned in game one. Be the Braum Ashe lane denied. Remember, level 1 Ashe caused them a lot of problems last game. Braum would have made it even worse. Maybe a Rakan ban here, but Rakan Jhin feels kind of awkward.
Yeah.
I don't know what the ban will end up being.
Bard. I feel like Bard in the BNK composition is really good.
I was going to mention the Yone because they still have the Sejuani. Could just ban Closer away from playing that and feel a little bit more safe. It does feel like a strong ban rather than kind of throwing darts at the board with the blindfold on, trying to figure out what that bottom lane is going to look like here for BNK. So what this final ban will end up being. It's going to be Rel. Rel doesn't feel incredibly powerful with this composition, but they already have a lot of CC. Faker will look to lock this Corki in. Lucian has really fallen out completely here as a response to this.
He doesn't look all too confident about it. I mean, there's not really a lot of other picks that Faker has played recently other than like Tristana. So it's just going to be Corki, which does get blinded fairly often nowadays. Yeah. So it's not too surprising.
We could see Closer play Lucian here. Couldn't end up playing. I mean, there's a lot of other picks he could go for that have permafrost synergy, but they all feel very fringe. Like, is he really going to want to pull out his classic Sylas? It's just going to be the Zeri. So, kind of forgot about this one. This one always feels like a pick that is a trap, but has just been so winning in the mid lane right now that I need to respect its power. As the final pick here will be Duro's.
Yeah. I think it's good, especially because they have that Jhin. There's that Rakan.
Yeah.
It's a bit awkward, but it is Duro, and he likes the pick.
It's really hard into this comp, though. You get shredded so easily. And Poppy feels very good into it, if that is, in fact, going to be locked in here. Yeah. Keria is laughing, but then the smile faded away when he looked over to Guma. I think he's still going to get to lock this one in. Poppy being a support pick that's kind of fringe right now, but feels very strong into Leona, feels very strong into Rakan, feels very good with the Camille. Bard feels very strong as well. You know, you highlighted it earlier.
I meant it for the BNK side, but we end up with it anyway.
Yeah. I think it would have been fine for either side. Does feel very good into the Jhin lane, though, and very powerful with Ashe. Let's see how Closer does on the Zeri mid here. Doesn't feel like very much a closer champion, but it is winning against the Corki specifically a lot. And we are seeing so many mid laners just crush even strong mid laners on the Corki with this Zeri pick. That often goes ignored when you have that early AD carry pickup. People are kind of thinking about, you know, okay, well, we're going to pick Corki, it's safe. We banned away some of those other picks. Tristana's fallen off. And then the Zeri comes through. And then you have a weaker, like, scaling AD carry in the Jhin, more utility, a lot of range. Feels like you're in a good spot. Then Zeri shows up and like, oh, now we got to deal with this really scaling AD carry that can warp team fights. A bit of an interesting draft here. I do think that T1's draft has the tools. It's got great lockdown. The Zeri isn't that scary because you have the Camille. So you could just simply put her in the Hextech and then blow her up. There's that follow-up there. BNK's, you know, engage is somewhat tricky to pull off with the Sejuani, Jhin, and the Rakan. Top side, though, the Rumble should have a decent amount of agency if played well by Clear here. If he makes a mistake, Zeus absolutely can punish.
Yeah, that top lane going to be a big one to focus on in this game number 2, and let's do it. We have game number 2 loaded up. Let's go on to the Rift.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Off we go to game number 2. As Keria just recently got a skin from Winning Worlds for Bard.
True.
And I don't think it's available for him to play in this game.
I don't think so.
But they did
Soon.
just recently come out like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe you can give homage anyway. Yep, he's not using his skin.
Yeah, I don't think it's available on this patch, even on tournament. So we'll see if he can get anything done here at level 1. Hannah will just put down a ward. Cleared. And zombied.
Yeah. Always feels good to get that zombie ward up. And they're going to continue invading Owner on the Lilia. Loves taking Raptors.
He does. Loves taking Raptors. Raptors. Yeah. He does enjoy a good Raptor takeaway. He gets his Raptors to go. Because he gets them and then he goes. And let's see how this matchup goes, because both of the soul lanes I feel like are relatively volatile. And Closer plays well with the Burst Fire. We've seen Zeri solo kill Corki. We've seen all-ins at level 6 come through. And then the top lane matchup, if Clear spaces well with his Harpoons, can kind of keep Zeus at bay. I did go for Grasp. He also has Comet, so can kind of, and Scorch, so can kind of continue to put that pressure on with Harpoons, trade that damage out, so it's difficult for Zeus to kind of hit an all-in. Until he hits level 2, obviously a little bit tougher. See on the minimap, Zeus going in for a hook shot and being very annoying up there. He will stem the bleeding. Baker's 5-5 on this Corki pick. It's been very much a pick he's been hit and miss on.
Yeah, and Keria hasn't played a single game of Bard this season. It just feels like, you know, especially in round 1, this was a very heavy engage meta for the support role. And he has played quite a few games of Rel and even some Nautilus games, Leona, a whole bunch, of course, just because they were so meta. But finally, now at the very end of the season, he gets to play Bard. So definitely one of the pro players that's more well known for playing Bard relatively consistently compared to everyone else.
Yeah, certainly a iconic pick for him. And for, you know, his counterpart in the 2022 finals, World Finals, Barrel. 2 iconic Bard players. And looking at the mid lane here, so even, or so far so even, as going to be a bit of a quieter early game in this one. It's Bard and Ashe, so can put some pressure on, but kill pressure much harder to find with this lane. Hannah did take cleanse, which is going to be high value into that Ashe.
I think this top lane is going to be very important in this game once again. Zeus on a split push pick like the Camille. Here comes Owner invading in onto Duro, but now he's just going to have to flash the wall. Keria just puts down a magical journey kind of into nowhere, but T1 do want to fight this. Just stay straight up 4v4 in the jungle, just fighting it up. There's the flash stun onto 2, and the follow-up comes in. Raptor solo, double knockup from Duro, but it just doesn't matter. The damage is taken away, and T1 will pick up 2 kills in one of the most random fights I've ever seen.
Yep, they just say, I'm going to skirmish with you. You guys want to fight this one out? We have 280 carries. You have kind of 1.5 in the Jhin territory. Not able to really offer too much here, as ended up just getting the flash stun. Guma also flashing, Owner flashing for the play. A lot of flashes utilized, but ultimately 2 kills going over 1 apiece to both of T1's 80 carries in this composition. Clear has, as I mentioned, once you get those first few levels in, has taken control of this matchup and is trying to burn his way to an advantage. It all starts off here when Raptors are respawning, and then Duro ends up trying to make this play here, whiffs it, doesn't have his knockup anymore, and I feel like at this moment for BNK, you're like, oh, I think they can't win this. We're doing a decent amount of damage. But then, slows come through, stun comes through, Henna is Jhin, he hits his big one, his 4th shot, and then he's like, well, I'm reloading. And they'll all be reloading out of the spawn room after Keria makes a fantastic play. They had Prio. Closers pushed away by the Gatling gun. This was not a fightable situation there for BNK, and T1 just judged the situation way better and have that clutch play from Keria.
Yeah, it turns out, you know, when you flash on in, you get a stun right onto the front line. It's very obvious where the damage needs to go, whereas Owner, a very good job to just flash away, not really be scared about using his flash early on. He says, well, I'm out of position. I'm just going to flash, and we're going to re-engage. And so BNK never really had an opportunity after that to kind of go forward and target one guy down. Whereas T1, obviously, with the carry engage, did exactly that. So kind of an awkward one. I guess, really, they just wanted to, like, Owner was pushing in. He wanted to get the Raptors again on respawn. And they got a lot more than just the Raptors, we can say. Speaking of which, going in this time, Owner on the Lilia is here once again. He's level 6.
Yeah. Didn't force the cleanse out. Zeus may be in trouble.
Ooh. Okay, well, he is burning a bit, but Equalizer is not going to get the kill. Meanwhile, in mid, there's that level 6. Faker not really concerned. He just wants to get the minions, but he might have to pay for it. The slow comes in, as now looking to turn around. Will try to flash the wall, but Closer's got a flash of his own. Meanwhile, they're diving the bot lane. That's not going very well. They're going to abandon that as the sleep comes in. Duro actually gets stunned up. It will be a kill onto Duro.
So they trade one back anyways as Faker disrespects the Zeri level 6. He didn't have his ultimate for that last skirmish, and I think if he had, it would have been a very different fight, but he is able to take Faker out. But in the meanwhile, another big stun to come through. The sleep is decent there from Owner, and they end up just getting that kill there onto Duro. So a trade back here. Ashe now with 2. We'll go the mid lane fight first. Faker, unfortunately, just in range of the ult here, trying to clear the wave desperately so that he can actually just avoid that all-in entirely, gets slowed here, and then decides to flash because he wants to trade Closer's flash. I don't think Closer had Extendo Beam just yet because he just used it for the slow, so that will force him to flash. If he had it, maybe he could have gone for the snipe there, but either way, used it to get the slow to bring us to that position anyways. And then this dive starts off very rough. Magical Journey gets them on the other side of the turret, then it's just a stun to come down here. Once again, Keria setting these up. Guma knocks him down. This Ashe is significantly far ahead of the Jhin. The Jhin that feels so out of place in this draft, especially if they're going to be skirmishing this heavily early.
Well, we found a moment to get this Zeus stat up. He is going to press his R button onto Clear, who does have flash, and there's no more lockdown, so, well, they got the flash out of him, they'll say. Hashtag worth. But now we got a fight in mid once again as Faker's just being run down here by the Zeri. Has this Valkyrie over the wall. It's a big one, though, to the face of Closer as it gets extremely close, and now Duro makes his way in, so Faker has to back away.
Still a pretty big win here for Clear, though, or sorry, for Closer, because he's just going to be able to push this wave in. Faker will actually stay for it. Thought he was going to have completed that back as, Clear.
Clear actually gets pushed out of the bowling ball. That's going to force Zeus to flash once he sees Raptor. And Duro is here once again. More and more action.
Yeah, very silly fight as Raptor was there with ult as well. So Zeus actually ends up being the one who has to flash now. Guma's going to get another plate here on the bottom side solo. As Ashe is going to become a big problem if left unchecked. And Henna is just, I mean, he's 20 CS down. He is so far behind. And in terms of early game relevance, there are very few champions, or there's very few sets of champions you could have it in the bottom duo where the gap is wide in terms of relevance if you're even. But Jhin, without a lot of setup, isn't going to be very strong in the early game. Ashe is incredibly strong in the early game and now has a significant lead on top of that. So there's a bit of a canyon going on down here as well. So top side winning for BNK. Bottom side, definitely Guma's game.
Yeah. Duro finally going to return home. This is kind of the way things go nowadays. The support's all over the map and trying to make plays for the grubs and even trying to get top in this game. And finally, he does make his way down. So Keria also going to make his way down. There is a Drake available here, Cloud Drake, which does feel pretty nice, you know, for the Lilia, for the Ashe kiting, even for the Bard. But actually just not going to start that up. So no Drakes to be taken here, even after 10 minutes.
Owner's top side, and this is going to try to clear some vision here around the upcoming grubs. We did not see Closer all-in Faker a second time here with his ultimate. He was pushing up and looking like he was going to threaten it, potentially, but Faker just backs. A little bit late to catch some of these mans. I believe it was a cannon wave, though, so it won't be too much lost. As finally Keria gets level 6, and he's already had such a big impact in this game. We'll see what he can get done with his Tempered Fate. Bit of a lurk here on said grubs. Owner was topside.
Yeah, just trying to make a play happen, but Raptor a bit alone. He does have Closer coming up, and the equalizer is good as well. Owner will be taken down. And now Zeus just on the run. This Zeri just getting so much value in this game. Zeus just go back into the pit, but no hook shot and no escape for the top laner of T1. So that's 2 kills now, going back over to BNK.
That was a really decisive call from Raptor to look for that ultimate to start the fight off. Closer can join in very quickly on the Zeri and ends up getting an insanely high-value team fight. T1 really wanted that top-side control. We're hoping, I think, to win that, then go bottom side and take control of the grubs to the prio that Guma set up, but we're not expecting such a decisive response from BNK. As Faker's going to take 2 turret shots here, but it wants this plate and will be rewarded with it. I think totally worth.
Yeah, Raptor now waiting. Thankfully for Zeus, Keria's coming up here, and he does have his ult available. It's just going to hook shot into Clear. BNK unsure about what to do now that Keria shows up, but Zeus is going on in, and he's in a bit of trouble as, the ults have stacked, and now we got a TP coming in. The double stun comes in from Keria. A lot of damage coming out of this Rumble, but there's just too many players coming up to the top side for T1 as Faker's TP does get a lot of value, picks up that kill, but meanwhile, Closer's just getting plates in mid.
It feels like there's a lot of, we're winning somewhere else, but there's an exchange of plates on the other side of the map type of game, as Clear was getting plate gold topside before this play gets set up. So go all the way back to this one, and we were talking about like Maokai versus Sejuani earlier. This is the kind of play I'm talking about that the ult does allow for with Sejuani. If you're just so quick on the trigger finger and it looks like you find an angle that the opponent doesn't expect, they don't have the time to react. Flash is still expended from Owner. As Zeus hook shots, unfortunately, into a direction where he's not going to be able to get out of that pit. Doesn't have the flash from the previous play. And then here, Keria showing up means this play is over, and BNK look a little bit lost as to what to do next. Clear decides to all in with his Flame Spitter because he's like, well, we're not getting out of here. It's almost enough damage, But then once Faker TPs through, they end up getting the cleanups here. Duro shows up. Closer was heading up, but then he's like, it's doomed, and I'm just going to get plates in mid instead. So small win here for T1, small win in the mid lane in return. Clear is still massively ahead, but so is Guma in the bottom lane. So we kind of have like this very weak Camille that's not going to be a side lane threat for a very long time, if ever. But we also have this Jhin that wasn't really an AD carry to begin with, but isn't really going to be relevant in this game for a while.
I'll figure taking a bunch of damage here in mid. And yeah, it really just comes down to where do you want that money. And on the side of BNK, they're looking to really eliminate Zeus from the game. And Hannah's just joined Clear, pushing the top lane. There should be an inner going down already 13 minutes into the game. So not only did they get all the plates in top, they got an extra turret before 14 minutes.
I mean, obviously the gold lead is in BNK's favor right now. You know, they end up getting so much money off of those plays topside there, the inner turret stacking up. Guma will be able to get this turret in return, but it's going to be a Herald taken. I look at this game state, though, heavily favored towards BNK because the Fed Rumble versus, you know, Faker's Corki is pretty even, right? You know, even though he got all in and there was some mistakes made, he's not too far behind. And Guma having a ton of money doesn't necessarily matter if they're not able to set up team fights or frontline for him, because the frontline is somewhat predicated on this Camille being somewhat relevant, at least. And when that Camille is just going to get burned down by a Rumble or burst down by Closer in the beginning of a team fight, then suddenly the Ashe just doesn't have a front line to actually utilize that gold. The Jhin being irrelevant doesn't matter as much if the Zeri is just going to be online this early, plus the Fed Rumble. Because if you just get a Sejuani ult into Rumble ult, boom, Glacial Prison, Equalizer, somebody's dead before the fight even starts. That money, I feel, is way more valuable. Not to say that this game is over, but at this moment in time, I have to give a pretty big edge to BNK.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, this Zeri is just pretty massive at this point. Actually, the only one that has a bounty in the game. It really just comes from the insane farm he has alongside of the 2 kills and the assists. So definitely it feels like Closer has a big opportunity to carry this one. There's so many threats on the side of BNK that you have to deal with, and the Jhin doesn't really have to be one of them. He can just kind of enable the rest of the threats to do their job. And he'll still be able to. You see Mikhail's first for Duro. Just, you know, just ready to deal with arrows, ready to deal with sleeps. And so he's going to lose a bit of tankiness, but sometimes he's just going to go in, go out, cast Mikhail's, and that's all he's got to do. Henna just, he doesn't get to play the game. That's still true.
Yeah, but likewise, we do see Zeus is kind of playing the game up here on the top side, so that's a good look. The Ashe arrow is going to miss, but the Camille's getting money. Rumble's still getting money, but we're getting one player back into the game, sort of, here for T1 versus just furthering that lead for Clear. I think T1 are playing this very well, putting the pressure on in mid, pushing Henna out of the lane, you know, forcing him to flash, getting him out, you know, trying to grab him with the arrow, and then really, really hold down mid control while they group for that top side play. They stem the bleeding a little bit bottom side, but at least trying to use your power point very well there in the mid lane. Speaking of.
Yeah, Henna came back. He doesn't have flash, and there's a Camille on the enemy team, so he's just going to go down. Doesn't get to play the game, as I said. Raptor also getting ganked in his own jungle by the rest of T1, so a couple of big picks here for the side of T1. There's no objective to really roll this into, but they're trying to really push their lead.
Just getting out macroed again, and now I'm going to have to flip back to, I don't favor this game state for BNK anymore, as Closer's going to try to get something done.
All right, the charm in and the knock up here for Keria. He has to flash away Guma as well, being pressured, and now you've got a Rumble right underneath, but the magical journey is so good, and in goes Closer. And he is going to pick up that kill. Now the response, the stun comes in, the cleanse there, and the damage is just huge from the Lilia and from the Corki. They're chasing him down, and the chase potential of this squad is just so huge with these champions. So T1 able to strike back.
It just takes so long for the turnaround there for BNK to get those kills. They get the kill onto Guma, but Lilia shows up, and the front to back basically begins there. And it's just really easy for them to clean up houses. Well, watch how this starts off here. Henna, the target, just desperately trying to farm, trying to catch waves. Clear is here with the equalizer, but it's very low value. Zeus is forced to flash, but they get away. And then all those minions are still crashing through. Over here, it's just split backs. Raptor is left alone because of the completion of the recall from Duro, who might have been able to help slow this down. So he ends up getting slept here and caught and then killed. And then in the mid lane, you could BNK are like, okay, well, we're starting to lose a little bit of control. We've got to do something here. Closer sees an all-in angle, has the double ultimate here. The charm comes through for Duro. Looks like at this moment, okay, we've got a small win, but probably don't chase. Clear flashes the wall here. The magical journey gets Keria and Guma out of dodge. They still end up getting Guma, but then the turn comes through, and you've already used all of your initiation. You've already used all your big ultimates. The equalizer used moments before.
Yeah, the flashes as well.
Yeah, you went way too deep, and T1 are just so good at saying, oh, look, maybe somebody's gonna get caught. It's like they dangle themselves out in front of you. You get completely baited and go in, and then the turns are there. And this game was, you know, just like 2-3 minutes ago, felt like, oh man, BNK have a really nice lead. Look at where the gold is. Two big whoopsies, and then T1 are completely in control.
Yeah. Really does feel like, you know, he's able to squeeze all the value out of the bar that just not many players are able to. Also, the other part is that BNK just going a bit too far. They do this sometimes, you know, they are trying to return to their base foundation. Okay, we're the team that always fights, always attacks. And they did that, but they got punished. As now, Sleep might be coming in and no steal this time, but they are going to catch Faker, who does have a magical journey, and he's gonna flash into it and get away! And now the three-man Sleep comes in with the bowling ball. Everybody is caught up in this one, and BNK are caught again as the double kill goes over to Owner.
It's another bait! It's another one, Valdez! Triple. And a triple kill goes to Owner, and T1 once again look like fantastic targets. It looks like you have the setup. And man, that play from Faker there, absolutely chef's kiss.
Well, the play from Keria too.
Yeah.
I mean, just to lock him down and set up the magical journey. This guy just is, you can't stop him on the bar.
Well, you set up the big ultimate there, the Tempered Fate, as Faker's just like, all right, come get me. And then he flashes through and they still index into it. And between the two of them, they just knocked BNK out of this game and potentially out of this series. Nice equalizer attempt to maybe steal that one away. Well, so watch this again. Guma's on the cross here, slowing them on the approach. Really appreciate that. Now Faker gets caught here, but then carries over the wall. Tempered Fate comes through. And then Faker's like, all right, flashes through, and they're all like, better chase him. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah.
No.
It's BNK in a nutshell.
If weirdly enough, if Faker dies there, maybe they don't chase. Like if it doesn't flash perfectly, they don't chase. It's actually fine for BNK. But all he had to do was escape and then taunt them to chase him. And Keria sets it up with a perfectly timed Tempered Fate, like you say, and I thought we were going to have an interesting series. I thought maybe...
We said it. There's no stakes.
I did tell you guys all at the lunch table, at the dinner table, in the cafeteria before this series, I said, if I had to guess, it's probably going to be a 2-0 because whoever wins game one gets some momentum. But game two looked like that wasn't going to be the case until it was. Raptor finds an angle.
Nice cleanse comes in, and there's the arrow to the face, but the charm's still going to land. These two guys kind of caught out, but once again, Tempered Fate comes through, but Guma, no escape for him. Owner a lot more tanky, and Duro just going to go down to mostly Faker and a bit of damage from the Lilia as, man, Owner is just so incredibly fed at this point. Everything is burning, and Closer maybe gets hit. Nope, it's just going to be the Camille that does get on in. Raptor has to flash clear. There's just nowhere to go. And you gave him Rumble. You felt good about this one for the side of BNK. You get Rumble for clear, but it's just not enough.
Yeah, suddenly you blink your eyes, or maybe if you took a restroom break, you know, a few minutes ago, you're washing your hands, you went and got a beer out of the fridge, you come back, you're like, how does Zeus have 5 kills? What happened in this one? How did that happen? How did that transpire? Last I was looking, he was massively behind. The Rumble was getting inner turrets. It's just, it can change in the blink of an eye with a team like this, and this is the coordination you want to be seeing from T1. This is what a T1 fan was dreaming of going in to watch today's matches, is just absolute domination, no doubts going into playoffs. And it looks like a good exchange, and then once again, Tempered Fate comes through, the sleep comes through, Duro is blown up by Faker, and then it's just an easy front to back, and Zeus is looking for the triple. You just watch these fights happen, and it's just B&K being on the edge, like almost got him. Oh, we gotta get out of here. Like every single fight has looked the same way.
Yep.
And it's so binary, like so black and white. Game 1, no action, so passive. Game 2, too much aggression, too much indexing into chasing. But in this game state, I mean, who could blame them? The game was practically over before that play. Maybe they could have turned it around off of that one. But it's just, again, another punish from Keria. And now everybody's ahead.
Yeah, and once again, we're seeing the value of this Lilia. I mean, it's kind of insane what you can do when you're playing up against a tank jungler and you're playing Lilia, expecting the Sejuani to be picked. The Maokai was banned. Owner's like, yep.
He's up 4 levels because Duro's been in the death chamber half the game.
And for Owner, he didn't really do much in the early game, but eventually it's just become like a insane amount that this Lilia is able to do. You have so much control when you've got Lilia and Bardis. Now we're going to get the root down onto Faker. Another Temper Fate is going to come forward, but there's only so much they can do. A ton of damage goes into Duro as a bit of ticking down does happen from the Lilia. I think the wallets are just that big at this point in time.
Ahead with a late cleanse there, just wanted to see if he could save it. As Keria's trying to set up a dive, they will wait for this next wave of minions before they go for anything here. I mean, Zeus still has ult, so it's hard for Closer to slide in and look for a play here. Just instantly get locked down by the Hextech ultimatum. So just kind of have to clear waves and cross their fingers that maybe there will be a scaling angle here. I mean, this area is on 2 items, now 3, as I say it. That's a big spike, but it might be a little bit too late. 6,500 gold behind.
Yeah, at least for B&K, it is Chemtech Soul. I mean, there is a bit of healing, a little bit of shielding, but it's not really that big of a deal.
A little bit of tenacity value.
Yeah, a little bit. You've already got cleanse, so. But yeah, this is just pretty far up from T1, and finally it feels like B&K are able to punish something, but then Baker just trades one back.
Yeah, I mean, it is a kill onto the support versus a kill onto the Corki, so that in itself is like a small win. But T1 could basically do no wrong at this stage of the game. B&K are going to need like 5 more plays like this to get back in, or just a big team fight wipe where T1 end up losing somebody and then the longer fight goes the way of B&K. I mean, Closer has to be the carry. He has to be the one to bring them back into this. Maybe an equalizer starts things off. It's going to be the dream if you're hoping to come back from this one. Otherwise, it is feeling like a nightmare in your final regular season series here for B&K. Zeus is now actually able to contend in the side lane with a Rumble after that triple kill.
They're just trying to posture around mid. I mean, this Baron is about to spawn 10 seconds, and you've got very good turn on the side of T1. You can throw bowling balls, you can throw stuns in from the Bard, Tempered Fates. Got a lot of ways, you know, even a Camille, obviously, to also pressure the side lane, and this is just one way to do it as well, I suppose. The Mikhails comes out, gets some value. They're going to catch only Duro as the equalizer gets some good value. Now B&K looking to try to take this fight. Owner has to flash away, and take a look at Zeus just trying to peel for the team as he's going to have to throw down the ultimatum and flash away.
Okay, well, that was kind of the kind of fight I was talking about for B&K. You end up buffering the Ash arrow there as Raptor. Ult comes through, and then you see the equalizer layered on top. Owner loses a ton of health. He's got to flash away. Zeus has to peel, then flash away. You don't get the kills, you don't get the gold, but fights and skirmishes like that are what B&K need to be looking for. So keep your eyes on Raptor here at the beginning of this. Buffers the arrow away, then blast cones around, so they don't have the angle on where his ultimate's going to come from. So Owner then steps too far forward into this checkpoint, or choke point, doesn't really have a way to flash that there, and then ends up getting caught, has to flash away. Zeus ults to then buffer, to keep them away, to kind of create a buffer zone there, then flashes away himself. Is close to his GA now. If they had gotten kills there, maybe that's Baron, maybe that's some standing goal on the map, the bounties that are up. See if they can make something like that happen again.
Yeah, definitely a lot of, you know, waiting around, trying to get vision around this. With the Chemtech Rift, there are a lot of ways to clear vision. We talk about this quite a lot. Just to try to deny it from the side of T1, who do have control over this Baron area. there is pretty much just the one ward on the blue buff, and that's about it. And Keria and Guma are just trying to push them away alongside a Faker, it turns out. Duro just, with the Mikhail's first, he's just so squishy. I talked about it earlier on, he just doesn't do much, and now Raptor trying to get close to the pit. Here's the turn as well, and T1, they do find it. Zeus not gonna pull the trigger on the ultimatum.
No jungler, no equalizer, and T1 can just go straight back to the Baron with no fear here. And no fear X in the pit. I just don't see any way they can contest. Keria just gonna keep eyes on the BNK players. There's not even a dragon to take here.
What is he doing?
Keria?
He's just following them.
Yeah, he's just keeping an eye on him.
Yeah.
Babysitting.
I mean, eventually...
No backs allowed. You can't even buy items.
Well, he stopped Duro's back for just a little bit.
I mean, what else is he supposed to do? He's already cleared all the vision around the Baron. There's no dragon up. Was he just back and then walk down the... Nah, he's being proactive. Come on, Valdez. He's on par for... He's on pace for POG this game. You know, just... He can do no wrong, right? He's perfect.
God.
Yeah, Raptor just goes in, and then the equalizer, I guess, was hopefully going to save him and clear his mind in that moment, but he didn't really do anything with it.
He took the magical journey.
Yeah, well, I don't know why he did that. And then he's instantly, like, greeted by an arrow, because you know where the magical journey ends, actually.
Yeah. The amount of baiting that Keria has done on this Bard, it has been very fun to watch.
17 out of 18 KP.
Has not died. And it's really fast. You know, they have the one Cloud Drake, he's Bard, and he's got Warmogs, and now he's gonna find Clear. Mikhail's comes down, but Clear is just dead. And eventually, here comes the Sealed Fate as well, or the Tempered Fate, gonna catch Raptor, and everybody's just being hit in the face by some gigantic wallets on the side of T1. It is a clean ace, and that will do it for game number 2 in the series. T1 gonna go into playoffs with a 2-0 win.
No one really knew what the form was going to look like for T1 in an important match to deny BNK playoffs leading into this week. BNK already had it guaranteed, already had it on lock. I feel like nothing to play for here except the fans for T1. And they did play well for the fans. Gave everybody a show and a very dominant 2-0 showing. Kind of keeping expectations high for a team who's been relatively middling in terms of our standings for the last few weeks. A lot of doubters, a lot of people concerned after the loss to Nongshim. But it's just, once again, a little bit of a ramp up, a little bit of a confidence boosting final series here. As Guma just trying not to laugh, trying not to smile. He and Keria, the fantastic performance across the series, but Keria in game 2 was all about him.
It really was.
Until Zeus was like, it's kind of about me too.
A little bit, you know. He got pretty far behind. He got bullied a bunch, and eventually he was able to come back in the game, which is props to him, props to the team as well. The amount of times that Keria went up there, Faker even TPing up to the top side. Owner showed up the one time as well. Just everybody on the same page. And Guma, he did his job. He played Ashe. He dominated the lane. There were no supports involved, and he really made Hannah kind of useless.
He just wants to go home and go to sleep.
Yes.
I assume that's what that means. I don't think he was saying the series was Resident Sleeper as he was setting up journeys for BNK. He was actually the script writer. He was like, this is where your character development's going to go, is right after Faker through this hole, and then you're going to get obliterated. Very, I'd say convincing series for T1. Their bro series, I feel like, was not that for me. This one definitely feels like they're just playing their own style. They're playing their own game. And they beat a strong team in BNK, made them look like they weren't playoffs worthy.
Yeah, so T1, they beat Quantum Freaks, and now they beat BNK in order to finish off their last week of the LCK regular season. Faker some whoopsies in the 1v1, just Zeri things. A good choice into the Corki, and Faker just trying to farm, gets caught out a couple of times. So there were some angles for the side of BNK early on in this game especially. But eventually, just something went wrong, and they just kept getting baited into fights over and over and over again.
This is the big one. Better go through that hole. Okay.
Get him!
Henna also can't reach with his final shot through there. Not that it would have really changed anything. He wasn't a champion in this game. Duro. Sad ending here.
He dodged the bowling ball. Oh, no.
This was just... That was very bizarre.
They just, you know, lack of vision. They don't know exactly where T1 is, and he's like, well, let's see what's over here. And then he died.
Calling for Rumble. Saying that he equalized. And saying Zeri, as then Zeus ult Zeri. Pretty silent otherwise. As the fans go wild.
Yeah.
We don't even watch the end. I guess they just didn't have anything else to say.
In that moment, I mean, it was
as usual.
It was just a very done deal at that point, and yeah. So, Fager did a lot of damage and has the most in the game. Clear did a lot himself, but unfortunately, just didn't matter. It was a bit of a team diff somewhere halfway through the game. You know, BNK just kind of lost their minds, and T1 just held it together with the help of Carrier's Bard.
I think that, you know, we're going to hear from both teams, obviously. For BNK, they still have playoffs, so they probably have some words for their looking forward to what's going to happen there. T1, I think, probably have a lot to say, as the whole roster has, you know, kind of come out of what seemed like a very dark place over the last few weeks, and now looking strong going into playoffs.
Absolutely. Well, we're done here on the cast. Let's throw it over to the space to break down the series.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Jason for the post-match interview translation, and we are going to be joined by the both teams as they had their final match of the regular split. First off, we are here joined by the victorious T1 players after their clean 2-0 victory up against BNK here at X. Please welcome Zeus owner Faker, Kumayushi, and Keria. First up, Zeus, how do you feel about wrapping up the summer season? This season as well, I was able to get a lot of takeaways, and also I knew what I can improve, so I think I learned so much. So you brought out the AB utility cannon. Sometimes on the Korean side we call it AS cannon, and it worked incredibly well. Tell us about the pick and the build. So we tried this in scrims, and then I feel like Cannon always performs better in scrims, so I was pretty like iffy going for the stage game as well, but I think it definitely worked really well. I feel like with that kind of versatile build potential, I think opponents will feel even more trickier to like kind of deal with Cannon, you know, whether it's going to be AD or whether it's going to be AP, so I think that can also add some more to the mind game. And I also want to know your thoughts on Cannon in general. I mean, it differs so much starting from the AP build to the AD build. And we saw a lot of AP build this season. It's pretty simple. And then AD Cannon is a little more complicated because it's more about the map play and macro. And then you show the great performance with Camille in Game 2 as well. What are your resolutions heading into the playoffs? As far as I know, if we lose one match, we're out. So I don't think it's a double elimination for us. So I just want to make sure that we don't get too nervous about it, you know. I hope we can just showcase our usual performance and everything will be alright. Now, Owner in the jungle, you ended the regular season with a victory. Since T1 lost to BNK in the first round, today's match must have felt even more important. How did you prepare for it? Indeed, especially I believe Raptor is one of the most proactive players on the side of BNK, so my focus was kind of stopping him or shutting him down early on before he scales. Now that was the final match of the regular season. Looking back at the entire summer, what stands out the most? I feel like time went by so fast, so I can't really pick a specific moment, but we were able to have a lot of great time together as a team. Also, I learned a lot of lessons as well. Now that you're heading into playoffs right next week, what are you expecting from T1 on the big stage?
저희가 이제 플레이오프를 가면 또 잘해지는 팀들 중에 하나이기 때문에
So T1 is a team that becomes even stronger at playoffs.
어떤 팀들이 더
So I'm pretty excited to find out what we have in store. Also, I'm excited to play up against other teams at the playoffs as well. I want to promise that we will prepare as much as we can in order to pull off the best performance we've got.
이어서 페이커 선수 만나보도록 하겠습니다.
Next up, Faker. How do you feel after securing a clean 2-0 victory in your final match of the regular season? You lost to BNK in the first round robin, so I really wanted to get this win this time around, and I'm happy with the clean performance and game score today. I think T1 overall this summer had a lot of highs and also lows, so how do you feel looking back? I was expecting a little bit of a difficulties this summer, and then I think we finally came back to our kind of form, and now playoff is just ahead of us. I want to focus on preparing for the playoffs as well. Then lastly, any words to your teammates who have worked so hard alongside you? Let's keep working hard together at the playoffs as well.
구마유시 선수 만나보도록 하겠습니다.
Now, 구마유시.
구마유시 선수 오늘 정규 시즌 마지막 경기였는데요.
It was the last match of the regular season. What did you consider most important as you prepare for this match? Well, there were also some possibility of facing up against BNK at the playoffs as well, so we just wanted to make a strong impression today. And also, they're really good at targeting one specific kind of like moments, so they're really good at turning the game around. So we wanted to be aware of that. And you have earned POGs in the last 4 consecutive matches. What impressed you the most this summer? So I think we had a little bit of a shift in the AD carry meta, so I focused on it a lot and I kind of prepared following the meta. Then lastly, what are your resolutions for the playoffs? There are a lot of ups and downs this summer, but finally, in the end, we made it to the playoffs. I hope T1 can make a miracle here. I know that we are that kind of a team, so I hope this happens again in the summer and make a great memory together. Last but not least, Keria. You were the start of the last game. You picked Bard and recorded a 0022 KDA as a support, the ideal numbers for the support player. So how do you feel about your own performance in the last game? My Bard performance was decent. I was expecting a POG, but it makes me feel even better finding out that I got a unanimous vote. Keria, this season you used 19 different champions, demonstrating your wide champion pool. How can you do this? To be honest, I myself also considered this summer season meta as a where you cannot really pull out a lot of different champions. So I'm also pretty surprised that I managed to play different champions like this. Now, Keria, you delivered a great performance today. Which bottom lane duo in the playoffs do you see as your biggest challenge? I consider every LCK bottom duo very strong. I'm not sure, but I believe our first match would be KT Roaster, so which means we're going up against Deft and Burrow, who I respect so much since, always. So I want to make sure that we can also display the best form. And before we go, as the captain of T1, Faker, is there anything last you want to say to the fans who are expecting a lot of performance from T1 at the playoffs? I believe T1 can show a lot of different kind of strategies and great performance at the playoffs. So I'm looking forward to your continuous support. Thank you.
T1 선수분들과 이야기 나눠봤고요. 뒤쪽으로 다시 모시도록
Once again,
하겠습니다.
congratulations to T1
인터뷰
players on
감사합니다.
today's victory. And now let's move on to the BNK Fearx
그리고
team
이어서
interview.
오늘은 아쉽게 패배를 헥스 선수분들 모셔보겠습니다. 클리어, 랩터,
One more
클로저,
time,
헤나, 듀오
please
선수
give a
모셨습니다.
warm round of
안녕하세요.
applause for the BNK Fearx players for joining the interview.
네, 팬분들의 큰 환호와 함께 인터뷰 시작해 보도록
A very loud
하겠습니다.
cheers
자,
coming
클리어
from the
선수께
BNK
먼저
fans.
여쭤보도록 하겠습니다.
Clear.
어제 DRX와 광동의 경기로 BNK PRX의
With the result of the yesterday's match between DRX and Kwangdong, BNK Fearx playoff spot was confirmed.
어떤 팀을 이렇게까지 응원해 본
How
적이
did you and your
없는데
teammates
어제
feel watching
경기를
that
다
match?
같이 응원하면서
I have never
팬분들의
been
입장이
such a big fan of a certain team, but yesterday I was truly a fan of DRX. You know, we were yelling and shouting whenever DRX was winning a kill or like winning a team fight, and when they were like falling behind, I was so desperate to see them bounce back. Clear, your growth in the second round has been remarkable. How did you feel it for you personally?
열심히 했다고 생각했는데
I think I worked really hard, but round one, I could not really showcase that on stage, so I was a little bit sad during the first round robin, but round two, I could also tell that I was slowly getting better. And Clear, this is going to be your first playoffs. What kind of performance do you want to show? Although we lost the match today, I think it's also a good kind of a remedy for us because we get to kind of learn about our weaknesses. So I hope we can improve on those aspects and come back stronger in the playoffs.
이어서 랩터 선수 만나보도록 하겠습니다.
Now
랩터
let's
선수
hear
이번
from
서버부터
Raptor.
합류를 하셨는데요.
You joined
이번 서버
BNK
정규 시즌
Fearx
마무리가
this
됐습니다.
summer.
어떠셨나요?
How has your experience been with the team this season?
많이 힘들었었는데
Round was
그래도 팀이랑
apparently
다 같이
definitely
힘
was
합쳐서
very
이겨내서
rough,
되게
but today,
잘
until
생각하고
today, I think we were able to kind
다
of
같이
overcome
열심히
all
해서
the hardships together
좋은
as a
성적
team.
낸 것
So
같아서
I'm so glad that we
좋았던 것
managed to kind of
네,
group
랩터
up
선수 역시 계속해서
with a lot of
발전하는
teamwork
모습을
together.
보여주시면서 정말 많은 박수를 받았습니다.
Raptor, you
이번
also
어떤 각오로
showed a lot of
플레이를
improvement.
말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
What mindset will you have
지금
as you
진짜
prepare for
열심히
the
다 같이
playoffs?
준비하고 있다고
We
생각해서
all
플레이오프 때
already
좀더
working
좋은
so
경기가
hard
나오려면
for
똑같이
the
유지하면서
playoffs.
잘 해야
So
된다고
I
생각하고
hope
있습니다.
we can maintain
알겠습니다.
this form or maybe
플레이오프에서도
even
멋진 모습
stronger form for the
기대하겠습니다.
playoffs to do better.
이어서 미드 클로저 선수
Now
만나보도록
moving on to
하겠습니다.
closer
자, 클로저
in the
선수,
mid lane.
BNK PRX 모래폭풍의
You have been
주역이었습니다.
The
정규
center
시즌
of
돌아보면
BNK
어떠셨나요?
Fearx's rise this summer. How do you feel looking back at the regular season? Obviously, it was not easy, but somehow, some way, we made it to the playoffs. But I think we are still not at our best form. So I hope we can hold on to our opportunity and perform better in the upcoming match. Closer, it's been a while since you actually last reached a playoff. So what are your resolutions this time around? I don't have a specific goal right now. I just wish we can have the best performance at the playoffs and kind of prove that we have the potential. Instead of focusing on a specific goal, I would rather focus on my own performance and try to play better.
다음으로는 해나 선수 만나보도록 하겠습니다.
Next
자,
up is
선수,
Hannah.
서머 정규 시즌 어떠셨나요?
How was the summer season for you?
플레이오프를 가서 되게
We
기쁘지만
made it to the
그래도
playoffs, you know.
좀더
I'm happy
많은
with
경기가
that,
아쉬운
but
경기가
still, I
나왔던 것
think
같아서
there are so many
많았던 것 같아서
games and moments where we
조금
could have
아쉬운 것
performed better. So I
그만큼
think we
앞으로는
did
더 많이
for sure
발전하는
left a
모습을
lot to be
보여주시지 않을까 하는
desired.
기대를 갖게 되는데요. 또 해나 선수가 LCK
And Hannah,
1000킬을 단 1킬을
now you are
남겨두고
just
있습니다.
one kill away
오늘
from
달성되지
reaching
않아서 조금
1000th
아쉬운
kill
마음도
in the
있으실 것 같은데
LCK. It must
어떠셨나요?
be a little bummer not
뭐,
to have reached it today.
또뭐 중요하긴
I mean,
한데
getting
이제
kills is important, of course, but
진게 너무 아쉬워가지고
I'm just
킬은 저희 팀원들이
thinking
다
of the
잘하니까
loss today, you know, because my
다음에 꼭
teammates are
기회
so good
되면
at
하면
catching
좋을 것
kills.
네,
But
그러면
hopefully next
오늘
time I can
경기
hit
좀 아쉬운
the
만큼
milestone.
플레이오프에서는 더 잘해보자고 팀원들에게 한 말씀
Then
부탁드리겠습니다.
what would you like to say to your teammates, encouraging them to
저희
do,
선수들
you
진짜
know,
되게
their
다들
best at the
신인들도
playoffs?
많고 막 경력이
You know,
되게
looking at our roster, you can
많은
tell
친구들도
that we have a
없는데
lot of
되게
young players and rookies on the squad,
너무 잘해주고 있고
but they're still
너무
doing a fantastic job.
다들 착하고 좋아가지고
They're so nice Also,
같이 더 높이 올라갔으면
I had
좋겠고
so much great
항상
time
잘하니까
together as a
뒤에 안
team.
죽고 잘했으면
So
좋겠다.
I know you guys are great
네.
players. I believe in you guys. So you guys can stay confident heading into the playoffs as well. I believe in you. You guys got this.
여러분 큰 박수 부탁드립니다. 응원의 박수를 보내주고 계시는 것 같은데요. 마지막으로 듀로 선수 만나보도록
And
하겠습니다.
last but not least, Duro, the support of BNK FURX. This summer was your debut season. How do you feel looking back at the regular season? So I think I joined mid first round robin, and then we made it all the way to the playoffs. You know, some days I had a good performance, but some day I was underperforming. But still, you guys are always there to support us, and that made us, you know, to reach the playoffs in the end. So I want to say thank you to all the fans. And it is, of course, your first time in the LCK playoffs. What are your goals and expectations? Goals? Well, everyone would say reaching to the finals, but I think that's kind of too lame and boring. Everyone can say that, but my personal goal or the goal of BNK FURX as a team would be, I mean, it would be nice to reach finals, but for now, I think we are pretty sure that we cannot make finals with this current form. I am very, you know, disappointed in how we performed today, which means we have to make an upset like we did last time throughout the regular season, but we only got lucky there. Today, we also learned about, you know, our weaknesses again. I hope we can get rid of those as we prepare for the playoffs, and I hope we can reach to the bigger stage with a better form. Everyone, please give a big round of applause to Duro and the BNK FURX players. And before we go, Hannah, as the captain of BNK FURX, anything you want to say to the fans? Too bad that we were not able to pick up a win today, but we will work even harder for the playoffs. I promise we will come back stronger in the playoffs. Thank you so much, everyone. One more time, please give it up for the BNK FURX players. And this will be the end of the post-match interview with the players, and back to the space. Thank you.